Hey everyone, welcome to a new season of conversations with me, Richard Bezaidnout, on this channel, Richard Talks. And this evening I'm featuring a guest, Hussein Patel. And I'd like to introduce you just a little bit about him. So Hussein Patel is an author, coach, and entrepreneur, all-around great guy. And he's written 3 books, The Robben Island Effect, Think Your Way to Success, and The Beginning of Ecstasy. With over 25 years of corporate experience, he studied natural sciences, computer science, operations, research, and business in South Africa. He's traveled all over South Africa, the Middle East, India, North America, and Europe during his career. Develop a key interest in scientific and engineering principles, systems thinking, Eastern philosophy, and neuroscience. He has transitioned into sharing his learnings of the pathway to success through self-actualization and mindfulness as a business coach and mentor. The concepts and learnings he ultimately shares transforms lives and motivates people toward true fulfillment and success. His writings challenge old paradigms and brings a fresh perspective to current real life and business problems. Wow, what a lot, what a lot. Welcome. Hussein, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. It's been quite a journey. Yeah, thanks for that. So maybe you are doing me a bit, but thanks for that introduction, Richard.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So, Hussein, we know each other for a few years. We worked together in corporate, and I must say, I had no idea about all these other things you had cooking in the kitchen. Um, whether it is building your side hustle. Was that part of something happening when we had first met each other in our corporate lives?
I think it's been there for, yes, actually it was. It's been there for a long time. My passion for writing, I think if I can go back, my mother was actually a teacher and a librarian, so there were always books around the house. And my father was also an ardent writer and speaker of 11 languages. So I think that influenced me quite a bit. And I've been really interested in books um, by other writers in self-development, philosophy, etc. And yeah, I've been probably writing for the last 20 years, but not publishing anything. But finally, I've gotten something out there.
So you say finally you've gotten something out there. Is it a classic
Yeah.
case of, the entrepreneurship journey where we sort of battle ourselves and we have this doubt, this constant doubt. So we build up these archives of things we could have done, but we don't actually execute on it. Or was it just, were you just writing because you didn't really believe that it should be published, or what was it, more of a hobby? How did that play out
Yeah,
for you?
yeah, it started out as as a hobby, and also I had a leadership coach a few years ago, and she actually encouraged me to diarize or journalize my thoughts and daily happenings based on the teachings she offered and the guidance and how that actually panned out in my life. So um, that also kickstarted my writing sort of career. And yeah, I think it's always been there. So it's definitely been a strong passion in my life for a long time. And I think the fact that I also reached a point where I felt that I needed to be more confident and get over my own insecurities. And through that transformation, I managed to actually write the books and finish it. Before I was maybe not that confident, but then once I got over that obstacle of having maybe feeling insecure, um, I was able to actually just finish it and publish it.
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, I've been sitting on something for the last 6 months actually, a course that I kind of developed this course, a different way of doing things for Excel. And when the lockdown started, I had sort of kicked myself into gear to say, okay, I'm going to create this course and I'm going to put it out there. It took me all of 5 days to do some of the initial groundwork, get a website admin running, get a e-commerce sort of thing going, had all the pieces. I just needed to record the course. I had the content for the course because I've been doing the training sort of one-on-one for a while already. And believe it or not, just yesterday at the time of recording this, well, I actually finished the edit for the course. So I've been dragging my
Wow.
feet for like 6 months, and not getting it done. And it was just it's a mental block. I'm not sure what it is, but that's why I find it interesting that you say you'd been writing for a while and then there was this mental block, this maybe emotional block that you were experiencing that prevented you from publishing, and the coach actually helped you remove those obstacles. Do you think a coach is important to help you with things like that?
Yeah, I think coaching is very valuable. The moment you know, it's a funny thing because a lot of coaches encourage people and they'll say things that you won't necessarily tell yourself, you know, because I think a lot of people mostly tell themselves negative things about themselves.
Yeah.
And when a coach, when someone tells you something positive about yourself, you like almost surprised, and but also encouraged at the same time. And then that can kickstart a sort of a trail of more positive thinking within yourself as well. So I think that's one of the big benefits of having a mentor or coach.
Yeah, I believe in coaching, especially in business, well, in everything, because we look at professional sports, and you know, we can't even think of a professional sports person not having a coach. We can't even think of that team not having
Yeah,
a coach. But in business, we often don't think of coaches, you know, that somebody needs a coach to excel in their business. And so I find that concept really strange, especially in entrepreneurs, smaller, you know, or entrepreneurs running small businesses or micro businesses. They don't think of coaching, even if it's not a formal coach, but you know, that would be best. But even as a group structure, group learning, you know,
yeah,
I always find that helpful as well. So,
yeah.
I mean, what's your take on do you think that there's a value in group coaching or more individual based coaches? What is your take on that?
I think this is probably depends on the situation. Sometimes group coaching is more preferable, but I think generally one-on-one coaching is probably more beneficial most of the time because you're getting the attention, the full attention of the coach.
Yeah,
But also the downside of that is that one-on-one coaching can be quite expensive. You know, so if it's a group coaching, it's probably going to be more cost efficient because the coach can then charge less for teaching a group.
yeah,
And that benefits obviously the students if they're paying for the coaching.
yeah, especially in this time of you know, with COVID, with the lockdown. We've had an extensive lockdown. Things are getting better right now, but you know, it might take a while before things get really good. And there was
Yeah.
I felt myself personally felt a lot of contraction, especially when the lockdown started. Um, you know, whether it was clients, whether it was just my perception of what's going on in the world, my desire to
Hmm.
spend reduced, and so there was just this whole feeling that everything is contracting around you, and so we're always looking to save wherever we could. Although that's a normal part of life, should always be saving. Um, but just it's what you were saying about sort of affordability around getting a coach, and what's and it's just you've released this book in probably the biggest pandemic any of us will live through, hopefully, uh, you know, and so Was it time? Was it your coach? What actually gave you the push to sit down and write, or did you have the scripts and then actually get published?
Yeah, I had a lot of the material already that I wrote maybe years ago or months ago, and I think it was because I had some time on my hands. I wasn't going to a job every day or office every day because of the lockdown mostly, and I just thought, if I might not have another opportunity like this to actually finish a book. And I thought, if I'm not gonna take it, I might miss the opportunity, and I'm just gonna go for it, even if I have to get up at 3 or 4 a.m. every morning and do it. Because when the day starts, things get busy, and then you get distracted, and you don't spend the time writing again. So I just see that now and here. That's what I tell myself. I think if you tell yourself something enough times, you start believing it, and you start actually following through.
Yeah,
So it can
that's
go
it.
both ways, either negative or positive.
Yeah, you mentioned something like that in your book. You say a thought becomes or an idea becomes a thought becomes an action becomes a habit. Is that right? Am I getting it right? I didn't quite write the quote
Yeah,
down.
something to that effect. So it starts with a thought, and some way in these emotion as well. So um, it could be start with an emotion or a thought, leads to an emotion, leads to an action. Ultimately, if that's just to cut a long story short, excuse the pun. um, to cut a long story short, I think if you constantly keep those thoughts and those emotions going, eventually it becomes part of your, they say, temperament, or you develop a mood, and ultimately a temperament. So they say, what's the saying? Or generally, you find that a lot of people are sort of have this unease about them, and that's not necessarily something that they've had all their life. It might be something that developed over time due to the thoughts and emotions that's constantly recurring, the same thing over and over. So eventually they have almost like a personality trait or change because of that.
Yeah. So I've have this routine in the morning. I do try to get up earlier. I like the quiet time, like just before sunrise.
Mm.
And before I actually get out of bed, I have this my morning mantra that I repeat to myself every day.
Yeah.
Tell myself, and I can feel there's a shift when I don't say my morning mantra. I can feel there's a shift in the day. Like I feel like something is missing, or I forget to be in control of a certain mind state or an emotion. So like so I can definitely relate to what you're saying there. Uh, is this is this a lot of the themes? I mean, I've had the good fortune of buying your book and reading your book, and so a lot of the teachings that are in there are great. What are you trying to do with this book? Let's talk about the beginning of ecstasy. So let's focus on that book because that's your most recent book.
Yeah, that is actually the most recent book. It's actually, there's quite a lot of overlap though with my first book. Maybe if I can contrast it with the first book, then it maybe will make it a bit more clear as to what it's about. Because actually that was going to be my first book, The
Okay.
Beginning of Ecstasy, that my
Yeah.
first title, put it that way. And then for some reason, when I thought about the central theme of the book, then the Robben Island effect came up because of Mandela. There was a lot about Mandela and his experience and how we relate to that. So the beginning of ecstasy, the whole point of the book is to talk about or encourage people to actually search for contentment or somehow some meaning in their life, which actually, in a way, leads to contentment. You know, the message basically is, if you don't search for that meaning or strive towards contentment, it's not going to happen necessarily. So it's got to be something that you consciously sort of search for, or something that you consciously strive towards. So that's where the meditation, the yoga, and those things come in. And that's my point. So also, if you don't go that route of searching or going towards contentment, you tend to fall prey to other, what I call false pleasures, like addictions and overeating, things like overeating, smoking, drug addiction, etc. So that's, I think, the main theme of the book. And that can be applied to any situation, business or personal life.
Do you think procrastination is also one of those addictions, or the art of making excuses? Like I said, it took me 6 months to record this course that I had everything lined up, but for just some reason I just didn't record it. And I tried to play through my head as to what the issue could be there. But is procrastination, or is that also an addiction? Do we like to make excuses for ourselves?
That is something that we'd like to do, yeah, unfortunately. So that's something that we almost thrive on. And it comes down to the thinking or the thoughts that we have. And I don't know if you remember that I said this, on average, people have 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day, right? And most of them are negative. So we kind of, not only the fact that we have so many thoughts, but that we actually latch onto those thoughts. We think that is who we are, and that's where the problem comes in. So if we think, I'm not good enough, I don't think that I'm actually going to benefit from what I'm doing, or I don't think I'm going to be successful, then we don't see the point in doing it in the first place. That's why we procrastinate. And the reason why we don't think that we can do it, or we don't think we're going to be successful, is because of the thoughts. So it starts with the thoughts. I think I also mentioned that most of us, our upbringing is based on the fact that we are not good enough. That's been built into us from day one. So yeah, that's how it ends up, procrastinating.
Oh goodness, maybe we should have had this interview 6 months ago. It made a big difference for me. So I think your book, it goes into a lot of the territory that I'm a little bit familiar with. I've running a business for 12 years. You kind of reach deeper into meaning of things and behaviors, and you start to challenge your existing view on the world. Who are you trying to reach with your book? If there was somebody that you could speak to, who are you trying to reach, and what message do you want them to hear?
I think probably the biggest audience, or the main audience I'm trying to reach, is people who are searching for solutions, realizing that there's something missing in their life, or they have a problem, but they've been disappointed, during that search, for example. So they've been searching everywhere, maybe on the internet, spoken to people, gotten advice, but it just didn't work for them. So people that are maybe fed up to the point where they've almost given up. And this might be if you want to call it, the holy grail of solutions, but I don't know if I want to go that far, but at least it will give them hope and some optimism to push forward.
I mean, that's a really, really big claim to make. I've read the book, and I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm not also saying it's true. I guess you'd have to buy the book yourself and find out. But the practices and the habits that you do speak about, I know that they do have great value. So there's 6 secrets in your book. Question: if they're secrets, why are you writing a book about it?
That's an interesting question. Well, it's not really secrets. I mean, maybe it's just me trying to give it effect. It's really more, I would say, principles. The reason why I call it secrets is because if you say something is a secret, then people seem to pay more attention.
It's
So
true.
it's more giving it effect, so people can take notice. But I think it's also when when people sort of read the book and they see a secret, um, and the way I explain it, it's actually they might realize it's something that they never heard of before. So, and it's been unknown for a long time. That's what also it could mean
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah, just ask the question as a bit of a fun twist, but I think that these things are we don't we're always looking for the answers elsewhere in common behaviors. So, and what I mean by that is that we try to solve, and I think you mentioned this in your book as well. You try to solve the same problems, or these modern problems, with the same way that we solved problems 100 years ago, and it's just not effective. It's been proven not to be effective. The
Yeah,
so, and that's why I think that you say it's secrets, because it shouldn't be a secret. It's I mean it's the practices are well known and the benefits are well defined, but there's just very few of us that act upon it. So, if what is your favorite, and it's probably very difficult for you as an author to pick out a favorite, but in the
mhm.
book itself, if there's a page that you want somebody to go to right now, what is that page that they should be reading?
Sure. That is a big question.
Unfair
Actually, a tough
question.
question for me because there's so many pages that I choose. But I think that uh, if I'm not mistaken, if I could just double check, you know, if you just even go to the section on I think it's the fourth secret, you know, and if you just go to the first page of the fourth secret, I don't know what page that is, which is compersion, right? And I think that's probably the most difficult. The reason why it's my favorite is it's because it's probably the most difficult secret to implement, because it's compersion is basically, in simple terms, having empathy for possibly someone you don't even know. It could be a complete stranger, for example. So, and and expressing love for someone that you don't know or that you possibly even dislike. So, I think that's something that's really difficult. And I think if you can
Yeah.
achieve that, then you've hit the nail on the head there.
And is that sort
You can
of
put
a
it that
lot
way.
of the influence that you get from Mandela's story, where you're talking about that Robben Island effect, because you do mention it in this book as well. And when we relate our struggles and situations and think that we are blocked and caged in, like with the pandemic, there was a lockdown, we were blocked and caged in, and there was everyone was kind of like on board with what was going on, but after a while they were fighting against it, or maybe it was just me, my family, um, but that whatever we were going through, if you think about what Mandela was going through in his tiny cell, like,
Yeah.
and he was still able to come out of everything with forgiveness and love in his heart. Is that sort of the inspiration for that fourth secret?
Yeah, definitely. I think for most of the secrets, if not all of them, and that's what the whole Robben Island effect was about. I know it's not necessarily the main theme of this book, but it does of the beginning of ecstasy. But it does sort of relate as well because if you think about it, um, if you can put yourself in Mandela's situation, let's say you're going through a difficult time, let's say in the lockdown, and just think about it. I mean, if you're sitting in a real prison and you just have a mat or something to sleep on every night, you know, and think back to your own situation again and compare the two, you know, what kind of what kind of emotion that does that evoke? I'm sure it must evoke appreciation or gratitude. The fact that you're not in a real prison and that you have all this freedom all of a sudden, you know, you start seeing that what your real situation is, that you actually should be grateful and that you in such a great situation, such a good situation. You understand? Because you're comparing now your current situation to that situation where you would be in a prison, in a real prison, but you're constantly thinking that you are in a real prison, which is the illusion.
Yeah, it's so difficult for us to get out of that. I mean, I've been running a business for the last 12 years, and I,
Mhm.
the dark days are really dark. The bright days are
Yeah.
really sunny. It's the feast and famine. You go through these, and and I reached a stage a few years ago where I didn't want that anymore. I wanted predictability, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Um, I still have material desire. I do. I'm also open to that. Like, I've never been able to say that comfortably before, where I think, most of us do want material comfort. We don't
Mm.
want to live out on the streets. We don't choose that. And I speak broadly about the population. So we do want material, but we've been taught not to claim that if you say that there's something wrong with that, and and so I look at it and really talk about material gatherings and wealth, really around because I want my thoughts and my decisions to be my own. Whereas I feel a lot of, when you don't have money and you don't
Mm.
have that cushion that money gives you, your decisions aren't actually driven by your what you really want. Because it's based on the scarcity or the perceived scarcity that people have. And in business, that is such a poisonous mindset to have. So you're not actually making decisions based on what you really want. You're making decisions based on what your bank account allows for. And then when I started to see that, I started to think about other things that I'm doing in my life, other thoughts that I'm having around my life, and how that is negatively impacting me. How I'm not tapping into a emotional bank account that can give me better fulfillment.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing with fulfillment and contentment. Unfortunately, people confuse real contentment with money. I'm not saying money is a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. Comfort, wealth, financial wealth. I'm not against that. I mean, I myself, love the good things in life. Have to be honest. I don't think there's very few people that I have heard of that don't desire material wealth. I mean, I've yet to meet someone like that, to be honest. But the truth is that most people sort of have this distorted view of financial wealth and confuse it with true contentment, you know. And I think I talk about that in the book as well, under the section or the secret contentment, where you confuse money with contentment. And just think about it like this. A good example is in the book also is that of Jack Whittaker. I don't know if you read that part. Um, the lottery, the big lottery winner. I think he won the biggest lottery at the time, something like over $300 million. You know, something to that effect. And basically, his whole life was ruined because of that. you know. So just think about that. I'm not saying don't go for money, but also think about the balance. You know, is it gonna balance your life? Keep a balanced life. Um, think about your relationships and your health as well. There needs to be a balance between all areas of your life. So if one area is too pronounced, the others might suffer because of that. And that often happens with money, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Um,
I recently read doing some research about the hedonic treadmill. Are you familiar with the hedonic treadmill?
Sounds familiar, but
Yeah. So
keep going.
the hedonic treadmill is basically it's an observed tendency of humans. I'm just reading off what's on Wikipedia. The Wikipedia definition says the hedonic treadmill, also known as
Yeah,
the hedonic adaptation, is the observed tendency of humans to quickly return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative events or life changes.
mm,
According to this theory, as a person makes more money, expectations and desires rise in tandem, which results in no permanent gain in happiness, which is kind of, what you're saying. So it
yeah,
doesn't matter how many things you buy and that you acquire or that you can afford, um, is that your life, everything else in your life rises with that. So it's not,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
so the problems also rise with that. And yeah, I can
it's
imagine.
all relative.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah,
and that's what protects. If is your book designed to help people to navigate through those kinds of challenges?
I think it's very pertinent to business, especially entrepreneurs. As much as maybe some of them might we try to deny it. I think because I think I mentioned this also. When people go into the business world or they become an entrepreneur, they think they're in a different world, but it's still life. It's still like there's nothing really different about it. It's just that you're in that world, but the same pressures, the same anxieties are going to impact you, you know, as with anyone else. And I think it actually becomes more pronounced when you become an entrepreneur, the stresses and anxieties of life. So I think people should people should really focus on what they want, but based on living, like I said, a balanced lifestyle. Also, I think the important thing here is to understand your own maturity. You know, especially when it comes to business and money. If someone gave you, for example, if someone gave you, say you're earning, let's say, 100,000 rand a year, for example, then all of a sudden someone gave you 10 million rand. How do you think that's going to impact your life? Just think of it logically. You know, all of a sudden you jump from down there to way up there, you know, in terms of finances. Just think about that. Would you be able to handle that kind of massive change? Are you mature enough to do that? That's the question.
You know what? The honest answer
Mm.
is like, I'll give it a go and see what happens.
Yeah.
But but quite truthfully, I think I'm
Yeah.
financially a little bit more mature. I understand things.
No,
I
I'm not just saying you personally, but I mean for a
Yeah,
lot of people, I think it's very
yeah, no.
difficult.
So I'll relate this back to business. As running a
Mm.
business, I'm always trying to increase the revenue. And a few years ago, somebody asked like why. I was like, oh,
Mm.
good question. Like, why do you want to earn more money and stuff like that? So I've answered those questions for myself, but um, one of the lessons that I talk to my team when it's about, if we launch a new product and we say cool,
Mm.
the goal is to get 10,000 clients in the first month. I caution against
Mm.
that. I said, well, firstly, that will be amazing because we'll have all this revenue, but With
Yeah.
10,000 new clients come 10,000 new problems, new
Yes.
customer queries, you know. Plus, um, it's not just 10,000, it's 10,000 plus however many each person asks each day. So are we ready for that? Will that break us, you know?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, I'm using a very simplistic example there, but it also depends on the situation. Some people, they're very mature and they can handle that. They know what they in for. So they know that there's gonna, the stresses that's gonna come with that and all sorts of things. But most people unfortunately can't handle such a big jump. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, they're gonna be more stressed out. It just opens the door up to more suffering and anxiety for them because they're not at that how can I say, subconsciously they're not at that level of maturity.
So
Unfortunately,
they
even though
haven't.
they'd love to have that huge amount of money, because to them, lots of money means for some reason or other it means happiness, um, contentment, etc. But they don't think about the actual implications of what that means
Yeah, so
necessarily.
you hear it often by people that have made it, that have excelled in life or succeeded in business. They find a happy place, and it isn't the money. And money
Yeah.
does bring with it some advantages, definitely, but it's not about the money. And if you make it about the money, you lose the money, because money is not the point. It should never be the point. There's always other things that are more important.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I say kind of the same thing. I think I do mention it in the book, one of the books. I just use different words. I think I said that it's money can be a means to an end, but it cannot be the end in itself. That's basically I
Yeah,
think what you're
great,
saying as well.
great words. Yeah. So, saying, I think 3 books is mainly. Did you self-publish? Just want to kind of talk about how you got a book out here. There may be people watching this or listening to this that is interested in the South African market, where
Yes.
we always there's tons of podcasts and sort of webcasts and stuff about people overseas and how they're doing it. And there's very few about sort of small businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs in South Africa that do these kind of things, which is why I'm trying to have more of those conversations with people that have gone through this process. So publishing a book, like, what was that like? Is it do you have a publisher? What's that journey?
Yeah. It's not that glamorous, to be quite honest. Um, I think I'm still the same person. It's not like, now I published a book, I'm a celebrity or anything like that. I think for me, it was more about the actual, this burning desire to get my thoughts and my ideas out there and share with people, and see what they think. Maybe I'm sure there's people out there that has similar ideas or have similar ideas and they have similar problems, and they might find a solution in my book. That's the whole point I was trying to make with the books.
So in and
And
advice
yeah,
for, sorry, will you say?
yeah, and if you think about it, if I can maybe just add, you talked about local writers and local talent in business in South Africa, and also South African writers compared to obviously overseas, especially in the West, like in the UK and the United States. There's um, this big marketing movement. You get all these big um, self-development gurus and personal development gurus and so on, celebrities. But it's unfortunately most of them are from America, the UK, and other countries in the West and maybe in the East, but not many from South Africa, right?
No, not
But yet
not.
we have such a great legacy with the dissolving of apartheid in Mandela, and that seems to be very much, how can I say, trimmed down by all the other things happening in the world. Don't you think? I
Yeah,
always say,
yeah.
because the Americans and the British and all of them, these writers, they get a lot of attention and they're very famous, but nothing much is happening that side. Has been happening that side. Um, it's all been happening here in our country in the last, say, 50 years or so.
Yeah.
But
I,
yet they're the ones that are actually getting all the attention, which is quite, I think, surprising. Or it should have been the other way around. We should be writing quite a lot because we got all the stories here, don't you think?
yeah, I do. I do agree with you, and that's why we're having these conversations. So, um, and then if people want to get hold of you, so what do you offer your coaching? Is that you do a course? Do you have a course, or
Yeah,
what are you offering
I
people?
do have a course. It's called the Wealthy Thought Leader Program, and if you go onto my website, husseinpatel.com, you'll probably see it there. They can email me. The email address is on the website. If they want to email me with questions or get on the course program. And so I've taken my books and a lot of the concepts that I teach in my program, it's in the books as well. So, but the difference is with the program, you get my one-on-one attention or my personal attention as opposed to just reading a book, So I think that's probably more effective to actually get the coaching besides just reading the book.
Yeah, I think definitely do both. Get the book and then book a coaching session. And I understand that you have a free assessment session that you have available to anyone that's interested. I'll put the links in the description for those of you that do want to look at that and have a conversation with Hussein. Uh, as we head into some of the sort of parting thoughts here in this conversation, what do you want to leave the audience with? What do you want to leave them with? Sort of what are the key things you want them to take away from all of this if they read any of your books, and that what should they do with their life?
Yeah, I think it's like what you said earlier, and I didn't really get to respond to that is what you said about the fact that which I also probably allude to at least in my books, um, and is the fact that over the last 100 years or more so, there's been a massive shift, and the problems that we have today should be handled differently, let's say, from the problems we had 100, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. But yet we're using the same approaches. I think that's the big misconceptions out there. And especially in my third book, that's going to be a lot more think your way to success. In that book, I actually talk very much specifically about that issue, the way we actually approach problems, because what we're doing now is in fact we're thinking about certain problems in a certain way. When we approach problems, we sort of have all these preconceived ideas about how we should approach it. It's like there's this truth. It's either yes or no, or it's either like that, and it's no other way. You see, that's the problem. Due to probably religious bias and scientific research, which even science can change, all the laws of science and laws of even physics and physics, laws of physics and science evolves. So the concept of absolute truths is starting to sort of become in a way obsolete, but yet we're still sticking to those paradigms.
So
I don't know if that makes sense to you, but yeah,
what are the
it's a
laws
bit
of science? So
a bit of
I
a
understand the laws of science. So science, I mean, the laws doesn't really change, but as new
yeah.
evidence is discovered,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
it evolves. So it grows upon,
evolved.
and so So is that, but it doesn't, like, gravity is still gravity, but all the
No,
principles
gravity.
around
No, I'm
it
not saying it.
has
The laws.
evolved.
I
Like
wouldn't
there's
say the
more
laws necessarily
information.
change, but sorry to speak over your words there, but I wouldn't say the laws actually themselves change necessarily. But for God, yeah, gravity is probably a good example. But the way we actually approach certain problems, um, we always look at things with, these absolute truths that we base everything on, and that can never change. That's the problem, you know, this
Yeah,
absolutism
yeah,
ideas.
yeah.
Um,
Exactly. It's.
yeah,
I feel that the person who's, or in your road or journey to sort of self improvement, is that once you can change your mind
yeah,
on something that you've previously believed to be true, then you are
yeah,
maturing. If you think back over the last 5 years and you haven't changed your mind about anything, it means you haven't actually asked deep enough questions of the things that you believe, the perceptions that we have. Um, when I look at business in general, like people of color, so like why do we so if racism does exist, and I don't want to get too much into race, like,
mm,
you know why are there still successful people of color? So it's like, do you believe that that's just the excuse, that's just the reason? I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist, but surely, like, you can triumph over it if you only raise the issue. Like, if it's sometimes, if anything ever goes wrong in your life and you always go, oh,
mm,
that's why, for me, a relatable thing is, like, whenever I see someone, the other, like yesterday I saw it. So I'm trying to
mm,
grow a YouTube presence. I'm
mm,
publishing weekly, and I
mm,
do lots of stuff, and then I saw someone launch a video and they shared it on YouTube, and they got, I mean, the numbers are not huge. So, but they got a couple of hundred views. And I was like, gee whiz, I put this effort into my videos and like the storytelling and
mm, mm.
the editing, and this thing got like so big. I was like despondent about it. And
Yeah,
and and the but the point is, like, you shouldn't, like that's their journey, and you shouldn't actually just look at that as being something of how to measure yourself. You need to be able to measure yourself on a different set of rules, and your own rules, not about what's
yeah,
happening there, because you can't look at other people and say, oh goodness, now I'm gonna give up because they were successful and they gotta, and that's what people want to hear, and then I change my narrative because of what I see other people doing. Similarly, you know, I sometimes look at someone else and I go, oh, yeah, it's because that's a pretty girl or guy. And okay, I'm never going to be as successful because they look that way and I don't look that way. And so
yes,
almost create the stuff. But, I have to train myself every day. I have to sort of train and keep my mantra going, so that I don't fall into that trap and I don't make that my primary thought. Like you said, you have 12 to 60,000 negative thoughts or thoughts, and most of them are negative. And I kind of have to train myself to sort of pull back from doing that.
yeah. I mean, that's also. I mean, that's what the fourth secret is also about. Is compersion, which is actually in a way the opposite of envy. Because when you, in a sense, when you use what you really talking about is comparing yourself to others, you know, and that's not your friend.
No, it's not.
Um, yeah, comparing yourself to others is not your friend, and that's actually the opposite. Compersion is the opposite of envy, because ultimately what you're doing is you're envious. When you're comparing yourself, you're actually envious, even though you might not admit it. Do you understand?
Yeah, yeah,
So subconsciously, you're envying that person, and or even consciously, and what you don't realize is you don't know. the whole story, but yet you making assumptions about that person, why they're getting so many likes or so much attention or whatever the case, as opposed to you not getting as much attention. You don't know what the full story, so you're just making assumptions. And based on that assumptions, you now putting yourself down, maybe wrongly so, or rightly so. That's not the point. The point is that maybe if you had been in their shoes, you might have not wanted to be there if you really knew the full story. We can go into that in more depth, but I don't think we have the time for that. The other thing is also that that person that you actually envying or comparing yourself to, they probably envying and comparing themselves to someone else. So it's like they're doing the same thing that you're doing. So they're probably looking at someone that has 100,000 likes or 100,000 views or whatever the case. So you're kind of in the same situation. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's all relative.
And it's all
So
it's like that in business as well, where you can, it's
yeah,
very easy for someone to look at another person in business and say, oh, they're making it, or they're successful. Or just in life, you see like, oh, they got a new car, and we can't afford a new
yeah,
car, but and you don't know the situation. So never look at the outside of someone and compare yourself to. It's a dangerous position to be in.
yeah,
About the so for me, the YouTube thing where I see other people's counts and views, it does affect me, but I've hopefully been emotionally trained to fend that off very quickly. Say that, well,
yeah,
I can look at someone's counts and I can also see that they've only got 10 videos, but I've got
yeah.
60. So
But
consistency
but
is
do
more
you
important.
yeah.
What's that?
But do you know that what their life is like? Maybe they really have a boring life, or they don't have a life, or social life, or they don't have,
I mean,
that's all they do all day.
I bring it up as an example for reference that I think
Yeah,
that other people may also be going through, and especially in business, though, you don't know what someone else is going through, so it's a bad idea
yeah,
to look at it. I know that it happens, and it's okay to admit that oh, you saw someone else like, oh, I wish I had all their stuff, and you go, cool, but do you know all their stuff? Like, do you
yeah.
really
Do you
want
know what
all
their
their
life is
stuff?
really like?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's the there was a old saying, but it's like, be careful what you wish for because you may just get it. Like,
yeah,
you have to know what you're getting into when you looking at stuff like that, and validating yourself on somebody else's outward appearance is never a good idea. There's so many people that I've encountered in my life that really look like they had it all together, the cars, whatever it is, but they were heavily in debt and they were
yeah.
unhappy, and their home life was just a pretend. When they went out, it was pretense, and they're back home, it was unhappiness. And so whereas you might have far less material things, but you might have a lot more fulfillment with family, happiness, time, because you draw a line between your work life and your home life. So, and it's not to say
That's
that you're different people, but you know that you end work because you're gonna spend time with your kids, that they need your attention and they need it fully, that you need to be
yes,
immersed in
yes.
that moment wherever it is that you are. um, and so
That's so Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I think you're talking a lot about the concepts I talk in my book, Think Your Way to Success, because that's the distorted view we have of success is we look at others and we see what they have, and then we aspire to that, not knowing their situation. And it's also about time and money, the balance there. Would you rather spend 18 hours, 14 hours a day working and earning a lot of money? Would you maybe take half that money and work, a lot less? That's there's a time money equation there that we're not seeing necessarily. um,
yeah, 100%, eh?
and also just think about, I mean, there's so many examples, and I think I spoke to you about this, where this I didn't tell you the full story, but there's this couple that their whole life was wrecked because they worked so hard, and then finally this man, they reached success and they became very wealthy all of a sudden. But he was still working 14 hours a day, and eventually the marriage broke up because he ended up um, having an affair and marrying his assistant, or whatever the case. Even though his wife was supporting him throughout his career, and then so that didn't end well. And there's another part to that story, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, you
So
don't
all that
know.
this couple wanted was to make it big, in terms of business and money. And when that happened, they split up.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's
That doesn't sound like a successful
it doesn't.
ending.
So so people can reach out to you, HusseinPatel.com. I'll have the links in the description. They can reach out, buy the book. It's definitely worth a read. I bought the book
Yeah,
simply because I'm on this mission to support other entrepreneurs. So I'm buying things because at some point I want someone to buy my things, and I
yeah,
also do commercial work and training and with Excel and help you with data and analytics, and but all those things are in my description. How you can reach out to me. Saying it's we're drawing to a close here. If there is a question that you can ask the audience, what would that question be? You got one question you want them to answer. Let's see if they leave us some answers in the comments.
okay. I haven't really thought about that, but I always I was more thinking about um, what I can say to them, but I haven't thought about what they can answer and tell me. But I would say, if I can ask them a question, I would say, um, how important, maybe this is a question, how important is it for you to know um, the true meaning, let's say the true meaning of life, or the true meaning of self? How important is that question? It might seem like a vague question, or very, very philosophical question, but I'd like to know, how important is that to you, as an individual? The question of searching for the self, or yeah, putting it
Great,
that
there
way.
you have it. How important is the search for yourself? Uh, deep,
Yeah,
deep.
or giving your life, giving is for your own, for your, how important is it for you to search for your life purpose, giving your life purpose, or giving it meaning? Yeah, how important is that to you?
Great stuff, great stuff. So, everybody, a little bit of a message from me is, if you are in business and like I've been in business for 12 years, Hussein's book is definitely one of those things you need in your toolbox. As we all know, we go to work with a toolbox, whether it's a digital toolbox, no matter what it is. And I think that this is just one of the tools that you need in order to grow your mind, not just uh, whether you're spending time in the gym, whether you run, whether you're staying fit, you also need to keep your mind fit, and having a different kind of perspective on things is always important. The other thing that I just like to share with you is that no matter what you are going through in your life right now, unless somebody's holding a gun to your head, you're going to be okay. It might feel uncomfortable, and uncomfort is a good place to be, because it's going to help you excel and get to the next step and stage of your life of terms of where you want to go. So it's been great. So to my guest, Hussein Patel, author, coach, entrepreneur, you can get his books. It's available on Amazon.com. It's a great read. It's intriguing. It will get you results, and you've got to put these things into practice to get the results. Like everything else in life, change your mindset, your behavior, and you will see fantastic results. Hussein, thanks so much for joining me on this conversation, and I wish you all the best with your books. Hope the book sales are going up, up, and up.
Yeah, I'm sure it will go up even higher now after this podcast, after this conversation, when people hear it.
Awesome. All right. Cheers, everyone.
I hope. Yeah, yeah, thanks. It's been my pleasure. Bye.